Are you unsure of where and how to build a property business? As a brand new property investor, I've been researching and learning for over 2 years now to really understand the crazy world of property investing. The power of property investing only truly hit me when I bought my own first residential flat, which is in East London. Now, rents in East London for a room can be around £1,000 a month, and all of a sudden, after making an extra £12,000 a year through rental income, and then also benefiting from the capital appreciation on the entire mortgage, that's when I really started to understand and realise the power and potential that property has. And what I'm sharing with you today is the kind of video I wish I watched when I was first starting out. If you're new here, my name's Matt, I work for a bank by day, I invest in property on the side, and I simplify insights on property, productivity and tech. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel for loads more videos on property, and don't forget to hit the like button. My property goals focus on 3 different phases. Now ultimately I would love to get into HMOs and also a mixture of development projects as well, whether that's from scratch or commercial conversions. But the reality is, to get the best mortgage rates you need experience, because lenders look at risk and credit risk scoring. So the more risk that you can mitigate by saying, yes, I've got this experience here, I've got that experience there, that will unlock better mortgage rates and better loan to value mortgages for you and your business. So what I need to do first is focus on flips to then get access to development finance later down the line, and I also need buy-to-let experience to get better HMO mortgages. Therefore, for me, phase 1 is all about flips to build my capital, and then keeping some buy-to-lets, which then opens up my potential in terms of HMO mortgages. When it comes down to it, there are 2 ways to start a property business. The first is the part-timer who might have 1 or 2 buy-to-let properties and they want to keep it for 30, 40 years and then reap the benefits of that when they're ready to retire. The second is somebody who wants to create a fulfilling and successful property business with a focus on cash flow to replace their normal day job and then focus on building capital through development projects or expanding their portfolios wider. So I've put together 8 crucial things that you should consider when starting a brand new property business. The first, before deciding anything, is actually sitting down and understanding what are your long-term goals and what do you want out of a property business. If you've got a fulfilling career or a business that you already own that takes up a lot of your time, then building a full-time property business might not be the top of your priority list. Whereas on the other hand, you might want to quit your normal day job and actually build a full-time property business. Therefore, you need to focus on bigger strategies and building up cash flow and building up capital. Which leads me nicely onto my second point: which strategies are best for you? Typically, you can categorize property strategies into 2 camps. One is capital growth and the other is cash flow. There are loads of different property strategies out there, from the very simple to the very complex. I actually have a video exploring the top 5 basic property investing strategies that you can check out by clicking the link here in the corner. Typically, a lot of new investors get started in buy-to-let property. It's very simple, it requires low capital up front, and the mistakes that you could make there aren't as bad as making it on a large-scale development project, for example. Most people get started this way by using their existing savings, or they might pull out existing equity out of their own home. Typically, depending on the price of the house, you can get started in buy-to-let property investing from as little as £15,000 to £20,000 maybe. However, there is a world well beyond buy-to-let property investing. You can look at HMOs, which is a house of multiple occupancy, otherwise known as co-living, where you have students and your working professionals living together and they rent the house out by the room. There are also loads of other strategies, including conversions, whether that's from commercial to residential, or you could look at development, for example, where that's building houses completely from scratch. Thirdly, how much time do you have available? Now this fits in really well to point 1, and you need to really get a grasp on, is this something that I want to build full time, therefore I have a lot of time to devote to it, or actually have you got a very busy lifestyle that you're not willing to give up and you just want something on the side, because that will really make a difference. If you're investing in properties that are 3-4 hours away and there's a problem, that's going to be one hell of a drive. Whereas if you're investing in a local area, then that means that if there's a problem, it's going to be a lot easier to get to. On the other hand, if you're investing far away and actually working on a full-time business, then you could spend your long weekends up in that chosen town or city and working on your property investment strategy. One thing to consider is that if you do have buy-to-let properties or you're flipping properties that are 2, 3, 4 hours away, then having a solid agent or a builder is really going to help you and pay dividends here. Fourth is build your knowledge through podcasts, videos, books and online resources. There is loads of information out there to get started without paying thousands of pounds on property courses and education. I highly recommend Rob and Rob, who run Property Hub, and they have a fantastic podcast every single week with loads of great information. There's also Inside Property Investing, run by Mike and Victoria Stenhouse. Again, they have loads of incredible information. One thing you shouldn't do as a brand new investor is spend all of your money on training and education. Unfortunately, property is one of those industries similar to Forex and trading, where it's tarnished by this huge get-rich-quick scheme type training courses, and you'll see tons of areas advertising academies and crash courses and guru training courses, all the rest of it. Stay away from those because you'll learn so much more from just putting your money into a small buy-to-let property and learning that way than you will in a stuffy hotel room. The next part is really getting to grips with your target investment area. Now, if it's not your own local hometown, then what you won't have is knowledge of what are the best streets in the areas, where do the families typically live, where are the young professionals in there, and also where are the areas to avoid. And by getting a grasp of this, you'll have a really good knowledge of roughly what kind of price to pay for a property depending on which street it sits on. By knowing your area inside out, this is how you can mitigate potential risks around buying the wrong house on the wrong street. Now, having lived in London for just over 5 years now, there's a thing in London where one street can be perfectly nice and pleasant and very safe to walk down, and then the street next to it is the complete opposite contrast, so really getting a feel for that can really help you. One tip is to go round to your target area at night and get a feel for what the streets feel like at night under street lamps. This is where you'll quickly realise that some areas are a little bit more dodgy and some areas are a lot nicer, and that's going to help you pinpoint where to buy your first property. 6 is speak to registered professionals and understand whether you should be buying within a limited company or whether you should be buying within your own personal name. I see so many brand new investors who ask the big question, how much should my first property be? And it really depends, yes, how much you have saved, but also have you got an emergency fund and everything around your own personal finances. The best way to truly understand how much a bank is going to loan you, then the best thing to do is speak to a mortgage broker and also speak to an accountant as well to understand how you should set the structure up. Your accountant will be best able to advise you on whether you should be working within a limited company or in your own name, and your broker will also help understand how much you can afford and get agreement in principles from lenders so that when you're making offers on properties, you know how much you can afford and how much you'll be accepted for on a buy-to-let mortgage. Number 7 is understanding your numbers. Now, by this point, you should have an understanding of how much you can afford. You already have a safety net in place as well in case you lost your job or something went wrong. And now the next part is really understanding how to work out things like return on investment and yield. I have another video on this and I'll stick a link in the description so you can check that one out. If you can quickly and easily understand whether a property is going to be profitable or not, then that's really going to be crucial to ensure that you're not buying a property at the wrong price. For example, if you buy a property that is worth, say, £100,000 and you know that it needs about £20,000 of refurbishment to bring it up to standard, if properties on that street are selling at done-up value for £100,000, then there's no way you're going to make any profit or additional money on that property. A really important phrase that you can remember is that you make most of your money when you buy, not when you sell. This means if you buy the property at the right price, then the profit should already be locked in. Number 8 is getting out there and actually doing it. It's so easy to get wrapped into all of the online courses and watch YouTube videos on property forever, but until you actually get out there and start viewing properties and making offers, you're not going to have an offer accepted. Now, I'm a massive hypocrite on this point because it's been such a long time for me in the making on the researching and learning and really getting to grips with property investing as an industry. And I'm now in a position where I have cash ready to go, it's sat in a bank account, I have a property structure set up, but that's taken me a year and a half, and now COVID is getting in the way just a little bit and stopping me from going up north and buying the first buy-to-let property. So believe me when I say this, that getting started is the hardest part. So the reality is, the sooner you get out there and start, the sooner you'll start seeing results and having some good luck. I hope you found that useful. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel for loads more property videos. If you haven't already, feel free to click this one just here and you'll see loads more videos from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.